Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what
you need and not what you don't.
So you found us.
What is it trying to tell us?
No strings, no catch. You own everything.
Now stay tuned to Rock Flux.
I'm trying a brewed low and slow Stoke cold coffee. Low and slow. 10-hour brew, they say. It's kind of strong. I put a little bit of which may be something that you shouldn't do. Excuse me, coffee aficionados. But I've got the bandana on a little bit better so you can. Right. Better make out those cows. Cattle on this tax farm that we are. You got it. And as usual, for those who are new here,
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
All right. We got a lot of interesting things to discuss today. A lot. Now, first of all, if you haven't seen, well, you should have seen the title card. And the title card is the yin and yang image on a desert road, or just this road leading off in the distance. Much like a road I described several videos ago. It's that scene where I had experienced a 360-degree view of nature. You know, the desert, the sunset, a rainbow, and storm clouds, all with, all around surrounding me. And for those who don't read the title or who are watching this on YouTube or somehow on TV, where you don't have the flexibility of like going down and clicking on the description or seeing the description. This is Tony Caravan Live for 2021, and the title is There a Glimmer of Hope? ? And my description is as follows, which is basically what you'll find on like Wikipedia, paraphrased. According to ancient Chinese philosophy, yin and yang is a concept of dualism, which describes how seemingly opposite or contrary forces may be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and how they may give rise each other as they interrelate to one another. In modern world and in practice, it appears to be a different story, which is my thing. And that photo credit of the desert was taken by a guy named John King. I just wanted to give him credit. And of course, we're using everything legally, and that's how we do it here. There's a bus outside that's making a hell of a lot of noise. It's 6:03 in the morning in the former United States of America. I'm situated in the mid-Atlantic states, and as I said, it's April 20th, 2021, and it is a Tuesday. And the weather here right now is supposedly, I didn't stick my head out the door today, I should have, is saying it's about 50 degrees. So last night wasn't that bad. However, Wednesday is still calling for a 30-degree overnight, and Thursday is a 34-degree overnight, and Friday is only 37-degree overnight. The last time they called for a 39, we ended up with a 34. So 37 could quite well be 32 degrees. And for you Celsius folks, that means 0. Freezing. Not good for my garden in my backyard. Anyway, so all that said, all that business covered, I'm going to get into a dream I had and an idea for any filmmakers out there. And let's do that first, because this is really quick. Because you lose dreams, lose consciousness of conscious memory of the dream after a while. Here's an idea for a film that would a quirky indie film that a young filmmaker may will consider making, particularly if you have if you're a traveling type of person who might travel to South Korea or Japan, or if you are a Japanese or South Korean young filmmaker or old filmmaker for that matter. I'm not going there. I'm not going to make this film. I told you before, I've written screenplays and I've had, dabbled with producing, but this is one out there. Just give me a based on an idea by or an executive producer credit if you're really generous. Anyway, here's a concept. These two twins from Korea, which would be the yin and yang, because also you notice on the Korean flag, you'll see that same symbol, the yin and yang. And these two Japanese twins, perhaps. Now, depending on the diversity culture that we live in, too, they could be gay couples, or one of the Koreans and one of the Japanese guys could be in some kind of relationship, and they could be brothers. Some kind of relationship like that. But basically, you got two Korean guys and you got two Japanese fellows. It's quite possible that another way of looking at it, you could have two Korean guys, South Korean guys, and maybe two of those cutesy, cartoony like, Japanese girls, because how Japanese, they like that, they like that girly look, right? And somehow they're connected or traveling with an American, and the American would be, someone who's a little taller and almost, kind of like, playing on that, just to give an idea of an American in Japanese. Remember that movie Bill Murray did when he was in Japan and he was like that, selling that, scotch or whatever it was. So you'd have a character like that. And the idea, the concept of the film is this one of, is basically the yin and yang on multiple levels, while exploring not just interpersonal relationships, the country, and the adventure, but the clash of civilizations, the clash of cultures, from the American to the South Korean to the Japanese, and wherever that may take them. And maybe this would even be a film that could be, once this plague thing has ended, maybe it could revolve around something like that. Them trying to go, their effort to go somewhere. That usually would be a good driver in a screenplay. In other words, it's some sort of adventure, a quest, so to speak. And maybe perhaps, depending on what happens with the Olympics or something like that, it could have something to do with that, but maybe not. But it's a quest. Just throwing that out there. Free idea, free film concept. I had a dream and it was detailed and it was getting into the whole story. But by the time I woke up, it was pretty much just, two South Koreans, two Japanese, and an American. Some almost sounds like a joke. Two Japanese guys, two South Koreans, and an American walk into a bar. And I would probably have them in a bar in a scene, just like for the sake of adding that depth, like personal joke. There you go. Write it. I'm not going to write it. Okay, I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to sue you. It's on record. It's on video. Do it. Like I gave credit to the guy who did the background of the took the background photo on my title card. Give me credit. Now that's done. But speaking of that part of the world, and just something totally off the wall and bizarre. Okay. I mean, I don't know how else to describe this. I got another one of these YouTube things the other day. Okay. This was the 18th, 2 days ago, for my video, Guru or What. And apparently I played some track or something, like one of my sound effects. Okay. Which are cleared. Okay. So this is really weird. This is the second time I've gotten it from some claimant named WMG. All right. Now here's the deal. This is not a copyright strike. This claim does not affect your account status. But as a result, your video has been blocked in some countries. This means your video is still up on YouTube, but people in some countries may not be able to watch it. But here's the countries that it's blocked in: Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. I kid you not. Look at blocked countries. You see that? Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria. Like, what the? I mean, is it, as a full-blooded American, it's like a badge of honor. Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria? I mean, like, I care, right? Like any of those countries have free internet. Anyway, I mean, except for their, the ruling elite there. Cuba, Iran, my video this is the second video blocked in Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. Isn't that weird? Isn't that off the wall? That's like totally off the wall. Bizarre. I mean, I'll just file that next to this one, the other, the one with the guy with the whistle warning me, my warning on my alleged medical misinformation, the one they took down, actually. All right. Well, I got my star shirt on. Excuse me. I'm not fully dressed. So let me get finished dressed. Wardrobe. Makeup, wardrobe. Hey, can you folks get that lighting set up? I need somebody from wardrobe over here, please. Yeah. Let's get a little bit like out of control festival. Remember, we got this. I want to tell you about that today. A little kind of a not so happy story about that. In past I've mentioned that a friend of mine brought this walrus tooth back from down in Antarctica, off the peninsula. I work closely with him. He and I doing dispatches. We did we were featured in Time magazine. Actually, we did the first ice bike. He rode the ice bike, and we did the ice bike expedition, driving a bike. The first guy to ride a bike in Australia. His name is Doug Staub. Well, he's in the hospital. He had some heart surgery. So I want to wish him well. He's one of the world's great explorers. He's led many expeditions to the North Pole and to Antarctica. He was one of the. He has some records, and and I don't have them all in front of me, but he literally walked to the from the coast, from what used to be called Queens Maudland, or Maudland Coast. It's a Russian part of the of Antarctica. I think many years ago that was like New Schwabiland or something like that. But anyway, they walked him and three gentlemen got started the expedition. Two of them completed it, but they walked all the way from the coast of Antarctica to the north, to the South Pole, to the geographic South Pole. And we followed that expedition. I literally tracked that daily, and we gave live expedition. One of these days I'm going to try to put all that stuff together and in some kind of documentary, and maybe I'll get Doug involved with that. So well wishes to Doug. I don't know if he's watching this thing. I don't think he's watching it because other things to worry about, but it's one thing me and the two of us really should do. We should do a documentary. I have tons of footage. It's not high res. Then we were shooting with 720 on the camera. I actually have the camera here. See if I don't want to pull my self off the wire. It's very dusty and dirty, but this camera here, this is actually, this is a historic thing. It's like this should probably be at some point at the Smithsonian. This camera has been, this has been to the South Pole, the North Pole, and at the mountaintops of the Himalayas. This camera, and many other places. So imagine that. And let me tell you, this is heavy. And when you're pulling a sledge, or a sled as you would call it, but they call them sledges, across this rough terrain, this rough ice, the Arctic Ocean, for example, it's not just flat frozen. It's like, it's insane up there. I'll show a video clip of that sometime. And the same with Antarctica. One of the coldest places on the planet. And because of treaties, you have to carry everything along with you, including your waste. That's, it's kind of a weird thing. So you're not only have to be in this incredible shape, and you're basically, on skis, but you're dragging this, heavy sledge filled with everything, all your tents, your food, like I say, you're not allowed to leave anything in the ice, your tools, your ice axe, everything you need. So Ice Axe TV was the site we originally set up. I have not. Let me just check something out here. You could go to iceaxe.tv and see some of his expeditions and stuff that he had been doing. That's just a friend. That's, just something I just wanted to pass on. Maybe he doesn't even want me to say that, but I did nonetheless. If my voice is a little bit, almost like Henry Kissinger, you're useless eaters. It's because go to Locals, my Locals community page, or my last Locals post, you'll see I mentioned that a friend brought over a classic Polish beer. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. And I had a few beers yesterday. And the older you get, you know, the recovery time is, you know, I had a decent night's sleep last night. But my voice seems to be a little bit, you know, whatever. Okay, so we're through that now. Again, I have the light on, plugged in here. We're testing this in real time. I think the word testing is no longer apropos. This thing's passed the test. Unlike those people on YouTube that give you, you know, unboxings and ridiculous things like that and say, oh, yeah, we tested the such and such and such and such. Well, I think we put this thing through the ringer. We've charged iPods, and we've been, while the show goes on, I'm powering lights, showing you that great solar stuff, all right, is, you know, it has real stuff, because I just don't like to, you know, I know this is repetitive, but this is my thing.
Monday, sunny. Highs in the mid-50s. The 8 to 14-day outlook from Tuesday, April 27th to Monday, May 3rd calls for above normal temperatures and above normal precipitation.
Well, that's good. So they're saying it's going to be above normal next week. I can take that, because I've got yesterday I tried to water underneath these various. I'll post another video update, garden update sometime. Who knows, maybe today or tomorrow. So, you know, today is, you know, I'm so out of whack with things. Like when you are no longer tied down to something, you know, when you're your own man, your own schedule, you know, I'm like thinking, what's today? Saturday, Sunday, you know, and, you know, I'm looking on my monitor and it's like Tuesday, literally, because there's nowhere I have to be and nothing I have to do. You know, my schedule, just out of my own curiosity. This is Tony Caravan Live. This is what I do. We usually start the show just with some personal business. It's a long form show, and then we work our way around. And it usually by the last half hour, it's usually profundity. You know.
Here's what's happening.
But I'm going to check my own calendar here real quick just to see, to give you an example. I'll give myself an example. This Thursday, the 22nd, is Earth Day. And of course, 2 weeks from now, approximately 2 weeks from now, Cinco de Mayo is coming up. So, you know, that's a lot of fun. But I've got nothing. April, let's look at May. Mother's Day is coming up as usual in May 9th. And I don't know if I have, excuse me. It's like I kind of sometimes work, but I have a 11th, which I've got to mark that down. We're live here. May 11th at 9:45. I have a doctor's appointment, and I forgot to put that on my calendar. Doctor appointment. 9:45. Alerts. I better alert myself 2 days before that, so I get my act together. So what I'm saying is that basically my when your calendar's clear, it's like you have a doctor's appointment, or, you know, you got to go somewhere. There's some specific holiday or something you're going to be involved in. And you're like a free man like me, because I've got nothing going on. I'm trying to clear my throat. Me, la, ti, ta, ti, ta, ti, ta, ti. The old choir thing. Get your voice. I am an opera singer. All right, now 25 minutes into the show. Is he ever going to deal with this whole yin and yang thing? What is the purpose of that title card that shows this yin yang symbol, the morning show? Wide open road in the desert, mountains behind it, clear, nothing else to see, beautiful blue sky with some clouds, right? And that description, which I'll just give you a piece of again, where under the Chinese philosophy, the idea, this dualism, how opposites or contrary forces may be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. That's not so much to say that where I had said at the, that giving rise to interrelate to one another, where I say in the modern world and in practice appears to be a different story, that may not be true, okay? Or that may be confusing. But what I was trying to get at is that it's this hope idea and the situation that we find ourselves in, particularly in the former United States. Western civilizations collapsed. I say this all the time. And so let's look at Eastern culture and see an ancient Eastern culture and see if we can draw any parallels from the distant past to the present. The collapse of civilizations, the change of civilizations. Obviously we're talking about pre-communist China, right? When we talk about ancient Chinese, right? So, and of course, as I mentioned in my little movie idea or concept or script starter, South Korea and Japan are both like somewhat democracies that are are following in some ways Western ways, right? To their benefit in some ways and detriment in other ways. But it's not a story. This isn't testament or a this is not a positive or negative for that for that. It's the idea of this open road. Picture this. So here you are in this open desert road, right? Life, right? The journey of life. Now, this is the show, okay? And I was looking for something to just so now this is it. We're into the show. So imagine that life is a journey, which isn't really too much of a stretch and too much of an imagination. Life is a journey. And as I say, it's an experiential thing. And when I mean experiential, I mean that in terms of the five senses. And it's an experience for your consciousness, right? Your soul, your spirit, whatever your belief is, right? And I apologize, this get up, I guess, is like kind of confusing. By the way, there's the eyes without a face. But when you see everything that's going on right now, I guess it's hard for someone to imagine that, someone making a video, a broadcast, this is TV, right? And not dealing with, all the crazy other things that are out there. But the idea is that, those are just things, those are like roadside, I don't want to use the word attractions, but for some people they are. Those are roadside attractions or roadside distractions, right? Or to some people, just things you are passing in the night. Let's think about that. This is, let's get into this, right? So the journey of life is like this road along this, this desert road, okay? Because when you begin this life, it's, it's devoid of anything. A child, an infant is a sponge, you're just taking in as much as you can, right? And that's why they like to get them now, indoctrinate them when they're infants, right after maternity leave, send them over to the state. Of course they're private companies, but they're pretty much following the state's rules, curriculum, indoctrination. If you want to be certified to be able to do something like that, there's certain things you have to conform to. Right? So the journey of life, on that open road, and it's all ahead of you, and it's there's a beautiful blue sky, clouds, mountains in the distance, the whole, and as you travel down this road, there are these roadside attractions, roadside distractions, right? And then there are these things that are neither an attraction or a distraction. They're just things that are along the way, and you just kind of pass, like I say, pass them in the night or in the day. All right. And you have 5 senses. And so you're experiencing this, and, as in the first person, right? And you're, so that's what consciousness is. That's not your bioelectric brain. The bioelectric brain is basically a computer. It's a processing unit, right? It's a computer. You have to see it like that. It's a device. This is an android body. This is a created body. All right. We're not going to get into whether or not God created this body, or, it crawled out of the slime, or cosmic rays caused some kind of mutation, genetic mutations of early mammals, or whatever, or ancient aliens, the guy with the hair, came in and like experimented with us, in ancient Samaria or something like that. I don't care. We're not into that, right? Remember, we're not political. I'm not political. This isn't about ideology. This isn't about belief. We're not challenging religion, belief, anything of the kind. When I talk about people, we're not care what flavor of people there are. I don't care about your race, creed, color, religion, or shoe size, I don't care about any of that stuff. Those are either roadside attractions, roadside distractions, or in my case, they're just things along the road. And that's hard for some people to comprehend. See, when I cut the cord, the more you cut yourself out, you detach yourself from the this whole corporatocracy and all of the influence that is being put upon you, right, by these various, social media, television, politicians, even, and edicts, by local, state, federal edicts, and how they direct you and all that kind of stuff. The more you can detach yourself from dealing with any of that stuff, then things that you encounter along this journey this quest, which almost feeds back into the screenplay idea, but this has nothing to do with that. That the journey of life, your adventure, this experiential adventure, right? That those things no longer become either distractions or attractions. They're just things that are there that you may or may not see, or, you're aware of, basically aware of. It's like life. It's like when you walk, if I got up out of this chair right now and walked into my kitchen, I'm aware that there's a futon over here, and I'm aware that my cat is probably sitting behind this computer. It's where he kind of hangs in the morning sometimes till he gets bored and goes somewhere else. But, and there's a mirror beyond there and blah, blah, blah. I'm aware of those things, but the reason I would be going in the kitchen, say, would be to refill my glass with ice cubes, coffee drip. So I'm on a journey, and I'm heading somewhere. So these other things don't, they're, peripherals. I'm peripherally aware of them, but they are neither attracting me or distracting me. Okay. But there's an awareness of them. And, and I may, and the interactions with that type of stuff are at a subconscious level, right? Which is what I call almost like a subhuman level, this bioelectric brain, this experience. And like in my book Codex there, where we question the hard problem of consciousness, that idea that consciousness is something that is separate, right, from the bioelectric brain, right? Consciousness is you. You are conscious. You are a conscious being. That is the you that is having this experience of life. You're on that road, okay? This vessel, right, or whatever you want to call it, this android body, this meat suit, okay, is not you, right? It's something that's, you're utilizing, in ways that we can't pretend to understand or comprehend at this point. So it's, it's useless. I just pulled up my, sorry for that. YouTube sends you a thing. It's always late, but it like your title card and says you're up. Okay. So we know that. We already know that. So, what does that mean? And, big deal. Well, the importance is that, that's an understanding that that's what life is. Life is an adventure. And that, and it's about, you see, I mentioned this in my book, and I'm not the only person that's gone down this, this route. Other people have talked about this. Who knows who said it first, or who knows if it's one of those things. There are many things that just happen. It's like Alexander Graham Bell and that other guy that basically both, invented, the phone or something, at the same time or whatever. I don't know. Edison was involved in that stuff, but Edison he was weird. Edison was the guy who screwed over Tesla, But there's this belief that human beings tend to have, come up with the same ideas at the same times, despite, their, not being connected in any way, shape, or form, and that could have something to do with, I don't want to get too heavy into this stuff, but since we're dealing with yin and yang, why not? So we could also talk about Gaia, the earth, Mother Earth and things of that sort. But and they've done experiments, and this is ancillary or slightly related to it. But there have been experiments in the UK where they've taught a mouse, a lab rat, for lack of a better word, to go through a maze. All right. And then they and until the thing figured it out, so it could just go pretty much get to the cheese or whatever was at the end. It's a real experiment, real story. You could find this out if you're into that kind of thing. Behavioral scientists know what I'm talking about. And I believe it was in Australia, they duplicated the experiment. In other words, set up the maze, the exact same maze, with the cheese or whatever the end goal was. And they put the lab rat in a lab rat, Australian, an Aussie, lab rat in the, at the beginning of the maze. And it seemed to, be able to had this learned behavior somehow in the species, had learned it because it on the complete other side of the planet. I think it's like almost 9,000 miles away, when you go, to get there. These lab rats in Australia seem to be able to complete that task, unlike the ones there, almost instantly. And so, and like I say, that's not exactly what I'm trying to get at, but it touches on the idea that, life, we seem to sometimes arrive at the same ideas at the same time, and I guess, which almost is kind of a thing with copyright and patents and things of that sort. And, there have been those things where someone patented something literally seconds before someone else was trying to patent the exact same thing. And they were, an ocean apart from each other. So that, it's just an interesting concept to think about, and that has nothing to do with the idea of spooky, attraction at, whatever that what Einstein called the idea that particles once separated or, will stay connected, at a distance, but that's like physics, so many crazy things out there that we just don't understand, or that people are studying and we half understand. So let's get back to this. So we're on this road, this beautiful road, on this beautiful planet, and it is a beautiful planet. You have to admit that. And there's so much negativism going on right now. And there are so many of these roadside attractions and distractions. See, let's not worry about the things the peripheral things that we're aware of, right? Subconsciously, through the, like I say, through the side of our eyes, we know that, or we know they're there. But let's talk about the attractions and the distractions, and how they fit into this whole, big thing. Like, and again, looking back at this title card, it's big sky country as well. There's mountains way off in the distance. And I've driven that so many times. I've driven along that, not that particular road. That's a photo I've got and I've credited to someone else. But I've been there. And anyone else who's driven cross country, particularly in the, in years gone by when there wasn't a lot of traffic. And like I say, I've been on those roads where I had well over 100+ mile visibility in ahead of me and in my rear view mirror. There was no one on that road. So I was alone on the planet, on my piece of earth, and ahead of me was, a mountain range that was so far away, but the visibility was such that, it was hardly ever, it was like just staying that distance. And maybe I would watch the sun set on those mountains, right? And I would watch it get black and dark behind me while there was still some sunset there. The beauty of that, is one of the greatest things about traveling. Experiencing this world, is incredible. And so on those roads, so we're on this beautiful planet. We're in this big sky country, and you've got these roadside attractions and these roadside distractions. And what's going on right now is that people are being inundated with roadside attractions and distractions. But really, the whole idea is about the adventure, the journey, the quest, life, this experiential thing, these five senses that you have and that you are conscious of, and the conscious you, because your consciousness is you. That's what, this isn't you. This isn't me, right? This is just a meat suit. This is just, this is a biological organism, organism, a bunch of cells working in unison in some strange way, completely held together. Remember that one movie, where I don't know if it was a Marvel, I think it might have been a Marvel comic movie or something, where the guy, he just turned into water, right? It was one of those X-Men type X-Men. The guy was on the gurney, and he just, because we're mostly water, and the cellular structure just fell apart, and he just turned into mush, not even mush, just like water, cell water, whatever. You are your consciousness, your mind. That's your mind. Your consciousness is not your brain. The subconscious is the thing that the roadside attractions and distractions are playing upon and preying upon, like in predation, predators, right? Sometimes they're nothing. They're just trying to sell you something. It's a consumerism society. It's like, I say before, the reason I'm wearing this cows on my head, it's just the idea they want you to be cattle, right? On their consumer farm. Used to be a tax farm. Still is a tax farm. But, it's, there's so many things going on in the monetary world right now that I don't even think I think the whole tax thing is an illusion. Excuse me. They don't even need to collect taxes anymore. I mean, they're making money. They're just creating money in the cloud. There's all these economists, that would love to give me some kind of like crazy argument about that. Well, you don't understand monetary policy. You don't understand this. You don't understand that. I understand it very well. I understood it when you got rid of the gold standard, when the Federal Reserve started, when you got rid of silver, when you created fiat currency, and when the blockchain, came into being, and that now China, and everyone else is trying to come up with digital currencies. Let's look at the current, by the way, this just reminds me, Bitcoin value today. Let's just see what's going on with that. It's down to 56,000. Man, I told people that's $6,000 down per coin. Profit taking, fools. People could have given me some Bitcoin. I could have done some good things with it. You could give fractions of Bitcoin to people. It's like I used to try to tell people when they in the advertising business, advertising is tax deductible. So you could either pay the IRS or you could do something. You can advertise, which will give you an increase in business, and you get that tax deduction. Well, it's the same with this Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going down because people are taking profits now. So you could either just lose it into thin air. That Bitcoin's going to vanish into thin air, or you could throw a brother, lend a brother a hand, man. Send me a couple fractions of it. Join locals. Get on locals. Doesn't cost you anything to be part of the locals. Locals.com. Anyway, enough of that. So, so people are like, okay, so what? So, what's the point? Well, the point is that if you look at television, which I don't look at anymore, but I'm aware, like I say, because I have, through YouTube, you see these other title cards, right? These descriptions of videos that are flashed before your screen when you turn it on. I don't turn it on because I want to watch those things, but they throw them at you. I'm going to watch a specific thing, right? I may want to hear Alan Watts talk about something, the great Alan Watts, philosopher. I highly recommend you listen to some of his speeches. The guy was brilliant, So that's my goal. I may just want to be, I'm flipping around and I'm looking at my recommended list and there's like an Alan Watts talking about a thing. But below it, there's this line because I watch it on my TV and I have a larger screen TV like most people today. It's not a giant one. I'd love to have one twice the size, but it's not within my, I live at the poverty level. So intentionally. So it's like, I'm not going to waste money on a, whatever, 80-inch diagonal. It's got to be diagonal. They never want to tell you what the width is from here to here. It's always got to be diagonal because it's longer that way. So they could play that game. It's like selling it at such and such 99 instead of just telling you the price. People are strange. So yeah, so I've got this big screen and I turn on YouTube because I want to watch something. And what am I confronted with? I'm confronted with active shooter, some kind of trial, some kind of, political nonsense. It's all there right across the screen. No, I'm not going to click on any of that stuff because I already got rid of TV because that's all that was on TV was the politics as pop culture and the cult of personality, right? These insignificant people that don't understand that the corporatocracy runs the former United States of America. Western civilization is dead. I mean, if this country has irreconcilable differences, and that's what I'm talking about, the yin and yang. The yin and yang, is this the left and right, the red state, blue state, Democrat, Republican, right? Whatever you want to call it, the MAGA versus, the, Democrat socialist, it's irreconcilable differences. So you can't sit there and pretend like it when I say former United States, as if that's some kind of heresy. I mean, come on, it's not coming to, you can't come back together. I say this every show and I'm going to repeat it every show because it's logic. Just think about it. It to be true. There's probably people in your family, coworkers, or friends or associates, people you encounter, and that there is no way, you have no common ground. And so it's the yin and yang. All right. And so that, there's no, it's not like there's no there's nothing going to bring you together. You see? At all. I mean, maybe, like I say, if someone was in distress who, you would help, but then the moment you help them, it's not going to suddenly unite you. You're going to, in other words, somebody who's like pro abortion and somebody who's anti-abortion is going to suddenly, after that incident, where a humane incident where somebody was in it, needed assistance, and you helped them out or they helped you out, that's not going to suddenly change their ideology. Do you see? No. And then they're going to go their separate ways again, right? Well, can't we meet on common ground? No, there is no common ground. We've been long past that. We're long past that. That's the problem. So that's not to say that as human beings on this beautiful planet and with many beautiful people on it, that, who have hearts and minds, who are humane, empathetic. It's not to say that, we're not caring people, but we're clearly ideologically, politically, totally diametrically opposed, polarized beyond any sort of reconciliation, any sort of uniting. It's irreconcilable differences, like grounds for divorce, right? Divorce is granted. Bam. Gavin Newsom is not going to be agreeing, with Abbott, right? These various governors from different states. It's just the way it goes. This is no enlightened, conversation here. This is fact. So back to this road. So that's life. Life is this road. You're on this road. And it's and like I say, the desert road is a perfect example because it's, when you're starting out in life, it's devoid of anything, but it's still beautiful. There's a beautiful blue sky. There's these puffy clouds. It's a sunny day. There's a certain beauty in the desert, and then there's these mountains in the distance that are, just are aesthetically pleasing, unless somebody put freaking windmills in front of them and, and ruin the landscape and start killing birds and stuff. But apart from all that, that becomes one of those peripheral things. It's like, okay, yeah, right. But it's the attractions and distractions that the corporatocracy, right, which are really the puppeteers of, who pull the strings of the bureaucracy and what we used to call elected officials, politicians. People go through the elections, but that's an exercise in futility. Like I say, there's not going to be no changes in the year 2022, 2024, just like there were no changes in the year 2020. I mean, nothing's really changed, right? Oh, we got our $1,400, stimulus. And unemployment was, well, that was in the works last year, right? Well, yeah, they got vaccines now. Yeah, that was in the works, and that money was allocated like last summer. They're talking about an infrastructure project. Yeah, they've been talking about that for for years. Ain't gonna happen. It's not practical. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's left? A bunch of ideological differences, a bunch of political arguments, a bunch of free content on television and social media so that they could sell cars and pharmaceuticals, right? It's free content, right? There's an active shooter. I said this yesterday. There's an active shooter somewhere. Yeah, well, wasn't, isn't there an active shooter like every weekend in Chicago? But we don't talk about Chicago? Aren't there riots in the Pacific Northwest that have been ongoing, but we don't kind of talk about that? Or some stations some stations don't. Again, back to this idea, irreconcilable differences, ideological differences. These are either attractions or distractions, depending upon how you view that. Are you going to be pulled over, pull over to this, sorry about that, and just deleting some notifications. Are you going to pull over to this roadside attraction, right? Or are you going to be distracted by something on this side of the road and get in an accident or mess up your life, right? That's the thing. And so, you've got to remember, you are not this, all right? You are not your subconscious. Don't allow your subconscious. That's what indoctrination is. That's what conditioning is. Right? That's what propaganda is. All of these things that they bombard you from, cradle to grave with. And like I say, it's not like some grand scheme, like some woo-woo thing. Most of the time, half of these things, more than half of these things are just to sell you products. It's just, look, I was a creative director in an advertising agency. The idea is you're literally messing with people's minds. That's what it is. You're messing with people's minds so that they buy product A instead of product B, right? Or they do this instead of doing that. That's like, that's how this whole thing came in. But then the megalomaniacs, right? The narcissistic sociopaths, the various psychopaths, these power and greed, insatiable, dictatorial type of people, they looked at this and said, hey, there's something here. We can use those advertising techniques, that ability to affect the subconscious, and we could start manipulating people's minds so that we could control them. We could start throwing a little bit ideology in there, right? And instead of just, whether you buy this cola or that cola or this, go to this store or that store, right? And that's just that. And that's the process. And that's why now you have more administrators in the education system, particularly the primary education system, than you do have teachers. You never had them before. We talk about this all the time. Schools years ago, you had a principal, vice principal, some office people, the office ladies, and a janitor and gym teacher who doubled as a football coach. And that was it. And some of the greatest minds and the people who've brought forth all of this technology, all of the good things that we have now, this advanced modernity, right, was brought forth in that environment without a separate administration building with all these people trying to sift through books, revise this, cut this out, psychologists, all of these behavioral scientists messing with this, messing with that, basically messing with kids' brains. It's child abuse is what it was and still continues to this very day. And that's no different than government and the bureaucracies that have risen. Government just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you've got all these bureaucracies and they all think they know what's good for you better than your parents do or your parent, right? And so they just constantly, and so you're on this road of life, you're on this quest, this journey, what's it all about? Whatever. You're this, you're this person, you're your consciousness, your soul, your mind, your spirit, whatever you want to believe. It is whatever you want to call it, label it. It doesn't matter. Again, I don't want to get into that. That's not the thing. I'm not into politics, right? I don't care about the ideology, right? I don't have, those things are they're peripheral to me. All right? That's meaningless stuff, right? And so it's your subconscious that is most vulnerable to these attractions and distractions. And that's not to say that you can't enjoy these attractions and certain distractions, but you have to be able to have your consciousness be conscious of, what is going on, and not allow your subconscious to take you down a path of self-destruction. It's like one of the most common things for people who see psychiatrists and shrinks is something called self-sabotage, right? And so the idea is that you can, don't allow yourself don't sabotage your own life, right? And so you have to be aware of your conscious being, the you in the first person, and know that, and say, okay, well, there's an attraction there. I think I'll pull over on that roadside attraction. That's okay. Remember, you have these 5 senses. All right. You're occupying this thing, whatever you want to call this flesh and bones, and right. So you have the ability, you have the eyes, you're on that road. So you're certainly seeing the beauty of this planet, right? But you can also see the beauty of, of another person and their body. And you can experience through your sense of touch, physical contact with another being, and pleasure. You can listen to music, right? Or you can listen to nature, or you can have a conversation like this, back and forth in real life, not through this virtual thing where, I'm inside this virtual cage. Hey, let me out of here. Look at this. I'm trapped in this cage, help, let me out of this box. Right. But be next to each other. And that's one of those distractions that's going on right now, where they've got everybody social distanced, and everybody, like back here, eyes without a face, The Walking Dead, zombie culture, NPC, an ongoing thing, industries popping up, testing industry, $90 billion a year, this industry, the thing they put in there is in the hundreds of billions. These things aren't going away because we got a corporatocracy who are the puppeteers, who are pulling the strings of all the bureaucrats and all the politicians, right? And they have an insatiable desire for 2 things, money and power. That's what they exist for. They live off it. As the Gnostics used to say, and that these people they get something called loosh. They actually draw energy from it. I mean, that's a woo-woo thing. It's out there. But I mean, that's how crazy it is. That's how crazy it is. It's sick. These people, megalomaniacs, narcissistic sociopaths, psychopaths. So when you see these things going on, it's not like you're being cold when you see some active shooter trial thing, some politician saying this, some other thing going on, whatever, some medical thing here, down the line. It's like, okay, I'm peripherally aware of all of these things, okay? But I am not pulling over. They're neither a distraction or an attraction to me. Not to my consciousness, my mind, all right? My soul, my being, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And you have to be clear, clear on that. Go down that road. Life is an experience. So by all means, experience life. You've got these, taste great food. All right. Smell roses, or whatever. Smell a fresh morning air, whatever you want. Do and be, right? Do or do not. Yoda said. Be or be not. But whatever, that doesn't matter. Live a good, you live a good life. You're a decent person. That's, what's the purpose? But I don't understand what the meaning of life is, though. Well, what's the purpose? You're on this road on a beautiful planet. There's beautiful people. Okay. And you have these 5 senses that you're connected to, but kind of like a television set. Remember? You're bringing these signals, in other words, this is the device. If you look at a TV, there's a television, or big screen TV. Sorry, there's literally like a tractor coming up my street right now. There's a video of it you can see I took and put on my thing. I don't know if this directional mic is picking it up or not, but right now it's like I can't even hear it myself. So I apologize. They want to fix the infrastructure in this country. They don't know what the heck they're doing. These guys have been trying to fix. This is one street. All right. They've been at this. This is the 2nd year. And a couple of years back, they tried fixing it and they screwed up. That's a whole other problem we have in this country. We don't have enough people that know, even the companies, the firms, we don't have people that know what the hell they're doing. Because no one wants to apprentice. No one wants to come up the ladder, right? And they get college degrees and stuff, and all that is student debt and some degree that's meaningless. And nobody has any trades anymore except a bunch of old timers, and half these guys don't know what the heck they're doing, or they're retired. Anyway, enough of that. Thing passed. What's life all about? What's it about? Well, you're on the road. You're on, you're here, and it's about experiencing things. I mean, look at the obvious. Like I always say, it's Occam's razor. It's the most obvious answer is that's it. That's what it's about. Why get, you don't have to have some chalkboard and scribble down all these equations and all this stuff to figure it out. Just look at it. It's obvious. So, live your life, be obvious, and don't allow these distractions or attractions to take you away from your journey and enjoying your journey and having a good life. And the more you disassociate, the more you basically extract yourself, from this corporatocracy, from these megalomaniacs, from all of these distractions, right? And sometimes the attractions. When I say attractions, I mean the attractions in a spy movie, right? Which still goes on to this day. What they call the honey pot or the honey trap, that kind of thing. It's like that's an attraction too. You have to watch for that kind of an attraction. But that doesn't mean that an attraction of love or an attraction of truth and beauty and a relationship is a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with anywhere. The word wrong, scratch that from the video. It's not about wrong or right. It's just about living life in the real world and not putting on some virtual reality headsets and living in some fake virtual world. It's like, yeah, I'm in this virtual cage. I have a song, Virtual Cage, which you should listen to. The lyrics in that are pretty cool. But I'm using this as a tool. That's all. I'm using this technology as a tool. I'm not like, me precious. Oh, this is the most important thing in my life. It never existed more than a decade and a half ago, but now it's the center of my whole life. Every time I do that, I always lose somebody, right? Because this is really touchy. I watch it happen when I pull this out. It's a fascinating thing. People really, because the touches a nerve, right? They just can't give up on this thing because it's their entire life. But how could it be your entire life when it didn't even exist? Right? Didn't even exist 15 years ago, give or take. And certainly social media was in its infancy, right? How could that be the center of your life? So you understand what I'm talking about? Roadside attractions, roadside distractions, right? And so what you've done is you've gone through life and you pulled off, this distraction has pulled you off the road to life. And you haven't even begun to live. You're not living life. See, back to that title card. Here's the road. Off in the distance, it's like those mountains that your destination is it's so far away, but it's a clear, beautiful day, so you can see for over 100 some miles or more. I forget what visibility is on a clear day, right? I don't know if that's something that they would be. I could find. Let's see if it's a searchable thing. Longest visibility on Earth, maybe. I don't know. Let's see if that does anything. The longest line of sight on Earth photographed was 275 miles by some guy in Spain. How far can you see? Okay, so 275 miles was the longest some guy ever, photographed or was able to see. So say, like I said, I use 100 miles, especially if you're in a desert and you have some of that heat stuff coming up or whatever like that, so it's not perfect. But it's somewhere between 100 and say 200 miles. Let's just take half, like roughly half the amount, say like 150 miles. So that's your life, right? Or let's take it into terms of like, say, people live to be 100 years old. Let's take my 100. And so life is a road where you have 100-mile visibility. Okay. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. This isn't scripted. All my videos are just free flow of consciousness. This is just flow of information, stream of consciousness type of stuff. And I usually circle them in, right? And it all makes sense before we end it. So yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at a road that's 100 miles. We have 100-mile visibility. And it's a beautiful blue sky with some couple of puffy clouds in it. We're heading west into the sunset, right? The sunset of your life, right? We just came from the east, the sunrise, our birth, and we're on this road, and it's this desert, when you're starting out, but it's not an ugly desert. It's a desert. It's devoid of anything particularly, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day, right? And off in the distance are these beautiful mountains and, the beautiful blue sky with the clouds. And eventually the sun's going to set there, and that's going to be a beautiful sunset too. That's another thing. Don't be afraid of getting older. Don't be afraid of the sunset. See? Because sunsets are beautiful. Just like sunrises are beautiful. People celebrate life, celebrate the sunrise. But, we're heading towards that sunset. But when you fall victim to these distractions, all right, these roadside distractions, See, it's okay to pull off to a roadside attraction. You spend a little time doing this, right? I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. I've had some my share of roadside attractions. I was married twice, divorced, had a few long-term relationships on top of that. They were attractions. It was fun, you know. But at some point, that thing ended and I was back on the road of life again, heading towards the sunset, you know. And then there's things that happen to you along the road, a tire, you get a flat tire. I ended up in the hospital with like having a cancer diagnosis and an operation. So I got that flat tire, or my car overheated. And so they had to bring in, the tow truck or whatever and fix that. But then I'm back on the road again, heading towards that sunset. But I'm enjoying this beautiful planet, this beautiful view, and this beautiful input from these senses consciously. But what most people are doing right now is there's these roadside distractions, okay? All of these things that they're putting, the powers that be, this corporatocracy. People just don't want to believe that. I don't know why. Like, why is it so hard for you to understand that we have irreconcilable differences? That is true. You just went through an election. You saw how, like, insane and polarized, it was. And every day you hear these arguments, right? Why can't you believe it? Why can't you do it? And why is the moment this thing is brought up and is criticized, right? Oh, that touches your nerve. This thing is nothing. It's just a tool. Didn't even exist 20 years ago. Didn't exist 20 years ago. Right? Didn't exist. Less than 20 years ago. People weren't on social media. There were people that were on like the beginnings of those things, the early stages. But for practical purposes, generally speaking, most people weren't on social media, did not have a smartphone. There wasn't even a smartphone. There were cell phones. I'm putting ice cubes in my iced coffee, in case you're wondering. And so you're totally distracted right now by the media. Well, I cut the cord, so I can't be distracted by the media. Not that I ever was. Upset the cat a little bit. This is the stuff I'm drinking. Some cold brew thing. I make my own. They make a big stink out of this stuff. Like, I'm not sponsored by this, or I'm not sponsored. I'm not monetized. I make no money. This stuff that I'm trying to show you and demonstrate, and I have a great site.com and my books and all my songs. I don't make any money on it. Nobody buys this stuff. I'm not monetized. Nobody's donating to me. But anyway, this stuff, buy my mug though, man. Maybe I make 40 cents commission. I'm living at the poverty level. 40 cents is a big deal. If I make $1, I could use it, right? Help a brother out, But people just don't, they have this cognitive dissonance thing. They just can't accept, reality. And that's a sad state of affairs. It's a really sad state of affairs to be in. Because life is beautiful. It's a beautiful planet. It has been and it shall be. And you can live well. That's what I always try to tell people. It's not about, forget this prepping nonsense and people talking about, apocalyptic, or all this kind of stuff. This it's, if you actually watch the news, these news junkies, these binge watching news, social media, dopamine hit crazies, all right, man, to them, it's the end of the world. And of course, the end times. Last night, I turned on the social, the shortwave radio, because for some reason I was trying to listen to some relaxing, some of that sleep music, just that helps you sleep, via one of these, it was Amazon Prime music, actually, to be exact. And for some reason it cut out. I don't know why. The screen just went gray. Strangest things are happening these days, And so I have this little mini shortwave radio next to my bedside. And I turned it on, and I noticed there were all these apocalyptic type of people on the shortwave talking about this kind of stuff. I've been talking about that stuff forever. Look, man, it's a beautiful world. People are beautiful. You just need to basically cut the cord and not be distracted by these things. This stuff happens all the time. It's like I said, active shooter in some place. Yeah, well, there's one in Chicago every freaking weekend. All right, this stuff's been going on since the beginning of time. I mean, just throughout history, wars, bloody wars, conquests, right? Suddenly people are like, oh my God, there's somebody rampaged, whatever. Well, they've been raping and pillaging villages and destroying and burning things to the ground for thousands of years. Human beings are sick people. And they're those that are distracted and who follow these megalomaniacs, these narcissistic sociopaths, psychopaths. And now we see, you got 320 million people in the United States, and you start seeing these people who are locked down and, confused, being tormented by the media and politicians and stuff. And some people are snapping out. Every week, somebody's snapping out. Of course they are. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, in the history of humanity and the history of civilization on Earth that we know of, at least this civilization of the last, say, 12,068 years or so, 12,040 years or something like that. That's another story. It's nothing, Just look at the empires, the rise and fall, right? And these evil dictators and these people that have conquered and wiped out places, right? And in the name of conquest, in the name of just plunder, in the name of religion, in the name of you name it. And so, with all these, because we live in this society. Oh, he said that he called me a name, or they don't accept me as a, such and such. And, this is, these people, they're a bunch of, it's really just they're wimps and pussies. All right. Imagine, you don't realize how good you have it. How would you like to be, living a couple of thousand years ago, and all of a sudden these chariots and these gladiators and these people on horses, start, rolling into your neighborhood and basically, raping and pillaging and then burning a place to the ground. A little bit, I think the people who lived through that would say, yeah, I rather them, you want to call me a name, that's fine. I'll take the name calling, right? You don't want to accept me as whatever I say I am or something like that. Yeah, that's fine and dandy. Just don't burn and pillage. All right. And by the way, if there's rumors that there was some little rampage here or some active shooter over there, swordsman or something, if you heard that noise, yeah, that's a tragedy, and I feel for those families, and I'm empathetic, that's for sure. But compared to the fact of thousands and thousands, I mean, under communism, 100 million people were killed, minimum. And the Chinese Communist Party right now, not the Chinese people, the Chinese Communist Party, right? And through Mao, right? It's, there's what he did. He just kept killing. And now this new guy, Xi, right? And the current Communist Chinese Party, the CCP, they literally have concentration camps in the country. They basically ignored the whole agreement with Hong Kong and just totally, ended their freedoms, right? They're selling organs, they're selling hair, and who knows, maybe they're messing with biological agents. We don't know that. I can't say that for sure, but highly suspect. So hundreds of millions, World War II, 6 million Jews. There's more than, but that's that number people focus on. It's like, do you know how many Russians and, and blacks and gays and those numbers are like I said, 100 million people died between the guy with the funny mustache and Stalin and stuff. We're talking 100 million people just slaughtered, killed, right? And not to mention the deaths of the people who tried to end that whole thing, right? The soldiers and, the underground people in the underground and stuff. And people are going crazy now, because the media is trying to sell cars and keep you tuned in for the commercials so you can buy that car or buy that drug because you got a rash on your arm. And then the law firms come on a year later and say, well, if you took that drug for that rash, contact a law firm of such and such and such and such, because it's been proven in court that thing is, caused death or whatever. Like I used to talk, there's a weed killer that is proven to cause cancer that's still on sale in the box stores and still advertised. What's up with that? And people are winning, getting financial remuneration, or not remuneration. Too early in the morning to speak. So, it's those distractions. You've got, don't let your subconscious, don't function as this non-player character ruled by your subconscious. In other words, being an android, basically the Walking Dead, because without your consciousness, your soul, so to speak, without the you of you, right? You're nothing more than just like an android. You're nothing more than just, a meat suit. But you have a brain. If there's I'm not denying the bioelectric brain. Yeah, there's a thought process thing going on here. There's a processing unit that controls this thing. But that's not you. That's not the total you. The you is your consciousness. All right? Not your subconsciousness. Remember, your subconsciousness is always working against you. Always working against you. Just read the psychologists, who've written over the years, or talk to a psychiatrist about self-sabotage and things like that. The problems that people have because of their subconscious, as opposed to conscious, being aware, taking the input from this TV set. Like I was trying to explain this. Imagine a TV. Imagine your body as this thing, right? This collection of cells held together, glued together with this bioelectric brain and organs. And you're able to you know, like a robot, navigate through this, through this world. But what the thing is, what's controlling it? Are you allowing yourself to be controlled through your subconscious, through these influencers? And I don't mean like influencers on Instagram and that kind of thing, though that's part of it. That's that's like the game they're playing, influence you to buy this, do that. Those are the harmless people. Now I'm talking about the influencers, the political, the corporatocracy, the ideologues, politicians, right? The megalomaniacs, the narcissistic sociopaths, the psychopaths. Are you allowing them to influence and control, manipulate, condition, propagandize you, right? Or are you like a point up above, being as a conscious person, in the first person, when you consider yourself, you taking the input, the experiential aspect of life, putting that all together and seeing the beauty in it and pursuing, continuing down that road to that beautiful sunset and enjoying that road, the beauty of that day, the longest day, right? I have a song about that, about life being like a movie, like a 2-hour movie, so enjoy, excuse me, enjoying that. And maybe there's some roadside attractions. That's fine. Excuse me. So, I hope that that touches you, or you can relate to that. And like, again, like every time see if we lose somebody, every time, this, you bring up this idea of this obsession with this Johnny come lately device and social media. It's meaningless. It's a tool. It's just a tool. I canceled my cell service, but I still have a cell phone. A smartphone. I've got an app on it so I can Wi-Fi make a phone call. I got to pay $40 a year for like a Magic Jack. $40 a year, and I get a Wi-Fi app, and you can get it at, nowadays you can get Wi-Fi just practically anywhere. So it's like, why should I pay, X amount a month? So it's me. I just use it as a tool. I take pictures of my garden. I'd use it because you could take video. You could take 1024 video. I do videos from I use it as my video camera. So, these things are a tool. I don't know why my mail just popped up in my face. So, use these things as a tool, but don't allow these distractions and allow them to blow this out of proportion and make it seem like it's the end of the world. The end of the world will come. We've got problems. There's the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. There's an uptick in volcanic activity, which is basically putting a lot of ash into the sky. The planet's cooling because of that, and because of the magnetic field and the solar minimum, grand solar minimum. The whole idea of the global warming, climate change thing is like, we're cooling, man. We got to worry about crop failures in the future, next 6 to 18 months, because of cooling, not because of like heat. Remember, they take measurements of heat from tarmacs and airports with jet engines and black asphalt runways that generate heat, that are hotter, from thermostats and weather reporting stations on buildings and cities that create their own climate, that are a degree Celsius warmer, right? Just by their nature. Cities create their own, right? That's the problem. Nobody talks about stuff like this. And then nobody talks about these, the magnetic anomalies. Nobody talks about the fact that the magnetic pole is no longer at the North Pole, and that the magnetic South Pole has already migrated and left Antarctica, right? So technically, we're on the verge of a pole flip, which, and is one of the reasons why we may be seeing so many whales beaching and so many problems with birds and other migratory animals, because this is the magnetic field is messed up, and this is cyclical. The Earth goes through cycles, and some are short cycles. Some solar cycles are like 11 years. Some cycles are 400 years. Some cycles are 1,000 years. Some cycles are 12,000 years, 10 or 12,000 years. And some grand cycles are 26,000, if I'm correct, something like that. Grand cycles. Throughout history, they've talked about the precession, right? That's where all these signs come from, Leo and the constellations and stuff. That's not like horoscopes or anything like that. All ancient civilizations, all parts of the world, all have these same things. That's like a weird coincidence. Why would the Chinese and the Mayans in South, in the Americas, people in India, right, and all these places have the same idea? It's the same with the flood myths. They call it myth, but it's like it actually happened. Noah, they call, we Easterners or Westerners call it Noah's flood. But I mean, there's like hundreds of flood stories out there. These things really happen. The oceans rose 400 feet in the past, 10, 12,000 years, just over top, burying coastal cities. And like I was saying before, violence. Oh man, people are going crazy. Look, any act of violence to me is abhorrent and should be abhorrent to any feeling human being, right? It's just like I even say with even protest or anything like that. They're all exercises in futility. I'm against any kind of thing like that. Accomplishes nothing, right? And then it denigrates into riots, looting, and ultimately somebody's getting shot or places are being destroyed. What good is that? What have you accomplished? It's like that. Like I have a shirt, out that says, and it was a title card on yesterday. It was like, then what? Question mark. What are you accomplishing through these things? Nothing. It goes beyond distractions, so some of these distractions are actually like, they're stopping your life, and that's why we even have this Peter Pan culture almost, because like on the road to life, on that 100-mile road to life, say, right? These people are stopped somewhere about 20 miles into it. It's like a Peter Pan culture, and 20 some miles, say. And they're missing the cool roadside attractions, where they maybe should be like taking a little, deviation over to that little, side attraction, have some fun. No. They're caught up in these distractions by these megalomaniacs, the control freaks, right? And then all these people on YouTube and social media that just are in it for the money. They're just making a buck. Like I say, I'm demonetized. They're never going to monetize me. I'm demonetized for life, right? Yeah, I'm the only guy in the world who actually like demonstrates something that may help you and shows it in real time, 2 hours, and been doing it for like running it for days now to show you, demonstrate. Yeah, this will get you through. The power goes out. You got a problem. Storm hits or something like that. Some goofball hits a power pole. But, I don't know. What else can you say? if you have to think with your conscious mind, not allow your subconscious to rule you and sabotage you. And these distractions, cut the cord. What's on TV? Nothing. Well, my favorite show, or I like to watch, this, that, the other, whatever. You can watch those things on, do what I do, every now and then I rent and I pay Netflix like 1 month, then I cancel the subscription. And then if they have something else is coming on, then I'll like subscribe again for a month. Right. You could find, and there's no commercials then. So you spend the $10 or whatever it is, so you're not missing TV, if you're into like, you could watch the CW on the internet for free. I mean, they have commercials, but I hate commercials. I just can't stomach commercials, because it's just all, it's just such, I don't know. It's like I was saying yesterday, they had this lockdown. The number one leading cause of death in the US is heart disease, right? The second leading cause of death is cancer. And then further down below that, there's things like strokes, right? And influenza and pneumonia and respiratory things like, that are all interrelated. And so when they locked down the country, what did they leave open? The artery clogging businesses, right? And they gave the poor and the unemployed like, basically food stamps. They call it EBT some places or whatever. I talked about this yesterday, but it's bears repeating. So that they could buy more artery clogging, heart disease causing, diabetes. Let's not forget about that. Sugary, right? Processed foods type of stuff. So people can get type 2 diabetes and then become susceptible to these these various things, these SARS things and stuff that come along, which they, in the early days of this, over a year ago, they warned. They said, if you have diabetes or if you have pre-existing conditions with respiratory and this, that, the other, you're at high risk, right? So they closed down the place, and what do? Is they basically try to turn the country into a bunch of diabetics and with clogged arteries who end up having strokes and respiratory problems and pneumonia from wearing masks and all this kind of stuff, living indoors, breathing, whatever. It's crazy. So so this is beyond distractions. These are crazy people. But here's what happens. When you cut the cord and you no longer watch that, pay attention to those morons. All right. When you don't allow these distractions on the side, right? When you just pass them by, you find you see that beautiful blue sky. You see the open road ahead of you. You see the possibilities of life. And you see some attractions that you have the choice of, right? You have the choice of those attractions, those good, and then you live that beautiful long life, those 100 miles heading towards that beautiful sunset at the end of the road. And, that's a beautiful thing. So it's like, it's, you can't, it's so easy to have, I could sit here and I could paint a picture of, a total morbid end of world scenario, catastrophe. Oh, life isn't worth living. Look, almost 50,000 people commit suicide every year. And like I said yesterday, since 9/11, 1 million people in the United States committed suicide. 1 million people found life so unbearable that they could not continue with life anymore. 1 million people since 9/11. All right? In the past 20 years. Now that should just, that is unacceptable. So, and that's the picture that the media is painting out there. That's what the politicians are doing. And that's what this yin and yang, this idea, that's what they're doing. These irreconcilable differences and the clash. It's like, I was going to say clash of civilizations, but it's not civilization. It's a clash of cultures. And then these people are just doing it. And the sad part about it is a good majority of them are doing it for money, to sell advertising so that they could keep their job as a news anchor, as a reporter. These people who make multi-million-dollar salaries. It's the same with the corporations. They just want quarter over quarter, year over year profits. So like a lot of this stuff is just done is mercenary. They're just trying to make a buck while 1 million people commit suicide because of the propaganda, indoctrination, and conditioning they're doing. The distractions, the roadside distractions of life. I mean, you should be appalled about that. And then all these, like I say, no matter what you want to say, the fact of the matter is every year, 650,000 people die of heart disease. That's every year. That's not like this plague thing that in 1 year did this, that, the other. The thing's on its way out. Come on, man. That's the way it is, as a dementia guy would say. Come on, man. I mean, that's a fact. That's CDC number. 600,000 people die of cancer every year. That means every 10 years, right? 6 million people die of cancer. Every 10 years, 6.5 million people die of heart disease. The two leading causes of death, it's insane, the amount of people who are dying. Nobody's getting crazy about that. They're not putting anything on the side of a screen, keeping a tally of that, right? The millions of 1 million people committing suicide, 1 million, 6 million people dying of heart disease, 6 million people dying of cancer. No, those are profitable businesses, right? Those are profitable business. They have all kinds of drugs for that. But it's like diabetes. Those are profitable businesses. We don't care if people get type 2 diabetes, because then we could sell them this, thing. Yeah. So, you got to be very careful about that kind of thing, or at least not even be careful. Just open your eyes, open your mind, use your senses, use your conscious mind, not your subconscious bioelectrical brain in this meat suit android walking dead body. And walking around eyes without a face. See, that's what I, like that Billy Idol song. When I see these people that, and all you see is their eyes, right? Eyes without a face. I mean, I put shades on there because it's just a white mannequin. You can see, doesn't really have eyes on there unless I with a marker, put some circles or something. You get the point. Yeah. Eyes without a face, The Walking Dead. Non-player characters ruled by their subconscious, influenced by distractions, roadside distractions, conditioned, indoctrinated, propagandized by megalomaniacs, narcissistic sociopaths, and psychopaths, and being alarmed and triggered by words and somebody who doesn't agree with you or doesn't your lifestyle, doesn't accept your lifestyle or want to adapt, and become and live like you. Hey, everyone, you're free to do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Like I say, I'm totally in. I don't care what you want to be, who you are, what you believe in, right? It doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you're, far left, far right, somewhere in between. That's your thing. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. When I was younger, I jumped back and forth, you know. It's like anyone else. You try to discover, well, you try to figure out life. Yeah, I leaned left, I leaned a little bit to the right. You know, I went through all these things, you know, trying to figure out who I am, what did I believe in and stuff. And then I found out, wait a second. Those things that's not what life's about. Those are distractions from life. They're meaningless distractions. And they're distractions by people who are just trying to do one of two things. They either want to profit on it so that they can become more powerful, wealthier and powerful, right? Right? Or they want to mess with your mind in such a way so they can control and manipulate you and, you know, and just make a holy mess of this, of life. Just mess up your life, mess with you. I don't know. I mean, what is their motivation? Sometimes I look at that. It's like, what's your motivation? When's enough enough? You know, these people make, you know, like Bill Gates. Why don't you just like, you got this giant house and houses. Why don't you just like go home and read books or watch stuff or make love to your wife? I mean, kind of a scary thought, but I mean, you know, what's their problem? I don't know. Hey, if I wasn't living at the poverty line, you know where I'd be right now? I'd be on some beach somewhere getting a suntan. That's what I'd be doing. Right? I mean, what is their motivation? What are these people? Why do they have to mess with us? And now they want to mess with the planet. You know, they're trying to tell us, oh, you know, we got to do all this. Bill Gates actually has a plan in progress. They've already tested it, this geo engineering thing, where he's saying he wants to dim the sun. Why would you want to dim the sun? We got volcanoes going off that are already dimming the sun, and the sun's in a grand solar minimum. This planet's cooling. Who elected you Lord of the Earth, right? The guy doesn't even have a college degree. He doesn't even know what he's frickin' talking about. I mean, imagine that. And that's megalomania. You know, these people just can't live a life. You know, maybe you ought to get a divorce, Bill Gates, and find yourself some, a lover that you could have fun with. Somebody you can just, you know, talk to and enjoy living with them. Like, you know, the concept of sitting on a porch with your best friend or your lover or your whatever, and just the idea and looking out over whatever and just enjoying each other's company, you know, sharing coffee together with a morning show mug. I mean, what are these people? Why are they messing with us? Why are they messing with kids, you know, lives? Why are they distorting everything for control and profit? And they don't care about the outcome. And all it is they just want to create mayhem or make it seem like it's mayhem. Well, it isn't. Let me tell you something. It isn't mayhem. Not compared to the things that have come down over the millennia. Right. You know, Genghis Khan. Imagine Genghis Khan and his conquests when they came in, you know, coming at you wherever you are. Yeah. You're worrying about an active shooter or some rampage in some stupid place. Yeah. How'd you like to live in the time of Genghis Khan and him coming in? That ain't no active shooter. That's guys with these ridiculous swords on horses coming in at, you know, just chopping heads off and killing things and then burning the place to the ground when they're done with it. And then taking the women or whatever, the people they could use, you know, the men they could add to their army and as slaves and then impregnating the women. There was some like anthropological thing or something that to say like 1 in 100 people basically has Genghis Khan's genes in them because that's how, you know, I mean, that's sick. I don't know if that's true or not, but I remember that. I remember like watching something about that on like the History Channel or something. Right. Or how would you like to live in the days of the Crusades, right? Or being like, in old England, like be peasants outside of a castle when the king comes in, like that story of William Wallace, like have them come and take your wife on your wedding night, right? Or how would you like, the conquistadors coming into South America and slaughtering people, right? The Trail of Tears of the American Indians. Right? Think about that. Or the Vietnam War, right? The Gulf of Tonkin. And, and they come out and say, oh, yeah, well, that didn't really happen. We just, that was just, we manufactured that so we could, escalate the war. Or the 600,000 people that died in Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. They never found. And all the soldiers we lost their lives and limbs and all of that. And people are going, oh, there's an active shooter. And they're, and the media swoops in and covers this thing. Or there's this trial about this thing because one guy got whatever by a cop, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, true tragedies and stuff happen all the frickin' time, but it doesn't even compare to what's happened in history. By what's happened in previous cultures and civilizations and conquests, and slaughters, and let's like I said, let's not forget about World War II, man. Concentration camps, gulags, 100 million people killed. And they've got people like out of their wits' ends now because there's because they've got these people locked down and they're snapping and they're shooting people. And there's some stuff like this happening here and there and riots in the streets and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's bad stuff. And, I feel for anybody who loses some family member or loved one because of some act of somebody who's been driven crazy by the media, psychos, or social media, and they just snap. But that isn't Genghis Khan coming in. That isn't 100 million people being killed in World War II by those dictators and megalomaniacs. Right? So people are crazy. Chill out. It's a distraction. I'm sorry to say it's a distraction. Turn off the news. Stop. Forget about it. You know what I do? I post these videos on Twitter. That's it. I don't reply. I don't comment. I don't play that. Homie, don't play that game anymore. It's the same with Facebook. And I cut the cord. I don't have cable or satellite TV anymore. And when I see those things on YouTube, like the news feed, that row, if you watch, however you watch YouTube, I mean, it might be different on your smartphone. I don't watch anything on a smartphone. It's too small. People watch movies on a smartphone. I mean, what kind of craziness is that? I want to see it. So yeah, I am very sorry to report to you people. All right. What they're doing is they're acting like Godzilla's coming down the street or something. That's how crazy it is.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
That's right. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. So,
Good morning.
Have a good morning. Thanks for watching. I hope this got through to people. I mean, this is important stuff. Thanks for watching. That's what I'm typing here. And, whoever watches this, whenever this is watched, because these things sometimes take time to circulate around, because they throttle me on YouTube. I showed you that ridiculous thing if you watch the beginning. But yeah, just be aware of this. Don't be ruled by your subconscious. Don't let these people who've got agendas do things to you. Just live your life. It's a beautiful world. I'm looking out now. I think today before I end this thing, I'll double check the weather one more time. Yeah, it looks like there's going to be some sun here, and it's probably going to get up into the higher 50s maybe. If you're in an area like that, get out, breathe some fresh air, get some sun, sit in a chair, soak up some sun. The sun right now has got UV rays in it, that boosts your immune system. That's vitamin D. We're at that time. We're already a month into spring, right? Of course, we're still getting frost here in an area where we didn't in the past, but they tried to tell it's global warming. It's like, sorry, it's like a month into spring, and I got to worry about a frost in a couple of days this weekend. Cracks me up. But anyway, get out, enjoy yourself. Don't be distracted. Live life. It's a beautiful life. You've got a life ahead of you. Don't be these people that get caught up in this stuff. Life has been way, 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 way worse. You're not a Jew in Nazi Germany, okay? You're not caught up under the Stalin's regime, right? You're not involved in some crusade, right? Genghis Khan isn't coming into your area. The conquistadors aren't attacking you and yours and just burning and pillaging and raping and taking you. Think of it, put it in perspective, right? And realize that life is good. And look at the technology and look at it as a tool, not as something that like you're totally, caught up in, oh, my precious thing, I can't live without this. And I must text somebody back an emoji and LOL. Give me a break. Life is beautiful. It's a beautiful planet. Live your life. And the more of us that detach ourselves and try to remove ourselves from this corporatocracy, these people that are the really puppeteers pulling the politicians. There's no politics in America anymore. Congress is a joke. The courts are a joke, right? That's all. That's over. This is the former United States of America, man. We geographically exist. We're Americans. You can be proud to be an American, I guess, if you want to. But, all the soldiers that fought and died, what kind of freedom do you have now? Right? Well, we fought for freedom. Yeah, well, guess what? We don't have freedom anymore. Well, we'll get it back. No, you're not. It's not going to come back. It's red state, blue state. Irreconcilable differences. Yin yang, man. Right? Live your life, you and yours. And don't go getting depressed and committing suicide like the million other people that have. Okay? Don't. It's not that bad, man. You could live through it. It's a beautiful world. You'll find happiness one way or another. There's things you can do. Just around, you're on that road to life. There's attractions. Forget the distractions. Find an attraction. Around that bend, you'll find happiness. A little piece of something. It's not, life isn't all whatever they call it. It's not all roses or whatever. I never promised you a rose garden. Remember that song? Anyway, this is getting far too long. So I have to end it here. But I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care and have a great week, rest of the week. I've been doing these nonstop, for the entire 2021 so far. I think I've broken the record. Anyway, take care. Cheers.